I'd like to call to order tonight the February 11th, 2021 Board of Adjustment meeting. Ms. Elliott, would you please call the roll?
Yes, sir. Chairman Brathwaite?
Present.
Vice Chairman Currituck?
Present.
Carol Bell?
Present.
Kathy Montans?
Present.
Lynn Hicks? I'm sorry. That's it.
Yep. Okay, so it looks like a quorum has been met with 4 regular members of the board present. Mr. Hicks is absent. So moving on to next item on the agenda is an election of the chairman and vice chairman for this board. Do I have a motion?
Normally she would ask it.
At this time, we can take some nominations for the election of the chairman.
I would like to nominate Chairman Brathwaite for chairman once again.
I'll second that motion.
At this time, we would like to take some nominations for the election of vice chairman.
I'd like to make a motion to nominate Mr. Stephen Currituck for second round as vice chairman.
I'll second that motion.
All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. All right, motion carries. All right. Are there any changes to the agenda for tonight? Do I have a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
I'll second the motion.
All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion carries. All right, approval of minutes from the December the 10th, 2020 Board of Adjustment meeting. Are there any changes proposed to the minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as written.
I'll second.
All right. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed say nay. Motion carries. All right. If there's anyone in the audience tonight who is wishing to speak on the item on the agenda tonight who is not the applicant, please sign in to speak and indicate which case you're speaking about. There's only one on the agenda tonight, so there's only that. If you have not already done so. All right, this time I would like to ask for any disqualifications. In accordance with the State Government Ethics Act, it is the duty of every board member to avoid conflicts of interest. Does any board member have a known conflict of interest with respect to any matters coming before the board tonight? If so, please identify the conflict and refrain from any participation in the particular matter involved.
I have no conflict.
All right. No conflicts. All right, is there any old business? Apparently none on the agenda. At this time, I'd like to swear in all the participants for the case tonight who are wishing to speak. I have 2 people signed up to speak tonight. Would you all come forward, please? Okay.
Mr. Chairman, for the clerk's convenience, who are the 2 that are signed up in addition to staff? We have 2 staff members, and then I know for her minutes she's going to want to make sure she notes who was sworn.
I have, it looks like Harney Stretz. Harry Stretz, okay. Pointer Road, and
Daniel Gee.
Daniel McGee, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Please state your name for the clerk.
Harry F. Shirts.
All right, everyone can do it.
Daniel McGee.
All right,
Lori, this is your
okay. Place your left hand on the Bible and raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
All right, thank you. You may be seated. Okay, the case before us tonight under new business is case number BOA 21-01, Harry F. Stretz. Variance requested for a concrete driveway currently located in the 10-foot setback. Additionally, the applicant is requesting to place an accessory structure in the side setback. The subject property is located at 188 Pointers Road, tax map 40, parcel 52C, Crawford Township. Okay. At this time, I'd like to ask the staff to present their case.
County will call Laurie LaCicero. Please state your name and how you're employed.
My name is Laurie Lowe-Cicero. I am the Planning and Community Development Director for Currituck County.
And how long have you been employed in that capacity?
In that capacity since July of 2017.
And prior to that date, were you employed by the county?
Yes, I was the Assistant Planning Director prior to that.
Okay. Are you familiar with the property located at 188 Pointers Road, Mayock, North Carolina?
Yes.
And how are you familiar with that property?
We received a complaint through a building inspector about a driveway on that property that may be encroaching into the setback.
Okay, and when was that complaint received?
In November of last year. Let me get to that email.
I'll ask you to look at packet page number 31. You recognize that document?
Yes, it was an email that it was the end of October. I'm sorry, it was October of this past year, 2020. It was the email I sent to our then Code Enforcement Officer, Rachel Anderson, that we had received a complaint through a building inspector
Okay, and
that there was a driveway that could be out of compliance.
and upon receipt of that complaint, what, if anything, did your department do with regard to that complaint?
The Code Enforcement Officer made note of it, opened a case. She began her investigation. She visited the property and took pictures, noted that there was a driveway that had appeared to have extra concrete added to the driveway to widen it, and that it was encroaching into the side setback, the required 10-foot side setback.
Okay, and what happened next?
Our Code Enforcement Officer then sent a notice of violation to the property owner, noting the encroachment into the 10-foot setback. This was also done without a zoning permit from the county, so,
What was done without a zoning permit?
sorry, the expansion of the driveway was completed without a zoning permit.
Is a zoning permit required for expansion of driveways?
Yes.
Was that also cited as a violation? Failure to receive a zoning permit? So I refer you to page 23 in the agenda package.
Yes.
Do you recognize that document?
Yes, it's the notice of violation for this property.
Okay. It was issued on what date?
October 29th, 2020.
Okay. And that violation was served upon the property owner?
Yes.
And upon receipt of that notice of violation, what, if anything, did the property owner do in response?
The property owner contacted our code enforcement officer, asked about how to bring compliance. They eventually filed a corrective action form and asked for an extension because they wanted to corrective action plan. They wanted to attend the December meeting of the Board of Adjustment to see how that was handled, to see if they wanted to apply for a variance.
Okay. At any time did the property owner file an appeal from the notice of violation and determination that they were in violation of the cited sections of the Unified Development Ordinance?
No, they did not.
Okay, so the applicant then is requesting what variance from the Unified Development Ordinance?
They are requesting a 10-foot side. They're requesting a variance from the 10-foot side setback. The UDO does not allow driveways to. There's a required 10-foot side yard setback for driveways, and they are requesting a variance from that setback by, I think, up to 6 feet for part of the driveway.
Now, how is the property currently being used?
There is a single-family residence on this currently on this property. It is zoned AG agriculture.
Okay, let's go back, please.
One
Go
more.
back one more. Okay, so like I said, in agenda packet, page 15, is that what is shown on the screen?
Yes.
And what is that illustration?
This illustrates an aerial photo of the property. The property is outlined in red, this particular property, and the zoning of this area is AG agriculture.
Okay, and as you testified, the side setback for driveways in the agricultural zone is 10 feet?
Yes, it is 10 feet.
Okay. Now, at the time when, to your knowledge, was the residential building constructed on, or the house constructed on the property?
The original house was constructed in 2013.
Okay, and was there a site plan presented and approved by the county in 2013?
Yes, on packet page 17. Let me get here. There was a site plan that was approved by the county, by the planning technician at the time. You can see that then the current driveway, the proposed driveway, met the 10-foot setback.
And then was there any change or modification made prior, at, or during construction, to your knowledge, that modified in any way the approved site plan in 2013?
In 2013, there was a change through the Albemarle Regional Health Department. According to the site plan that was originally approved in March by the Planning and Community Development Department, the septic tank was on the north side of the property, and probably due to site conditions, once more investigation was done, the Environmental Health Department approved a switch for the septic tank, and drainage area to be moved to on the more southern side of the property.
And so I refer you to agenda packet page 18.
Yes,
What is that document?
that is the approval from the health department about the septic tank relocation.
And that also was in 2013, is that correct?
That was in 2013. You can see the date of that was June of 2013. Our approval of the site plan came in March of 2013.
Okay, then I refer you to packet page number 19. What is that document?
The changes in the layout for the septic tank area.
And
That was the approved, that was what was changed.
and who or what agency approved the change in location for the septic tank and drain field?
The Albemarle Regional Health Department, and Kevin Carver appears to have to approve this change.
Is Albemarle Regional Health Services an agency of Currituck County?
No, we work in partnership with them, but they are not an agency or not a department within Currituck County.
Is Albemarle Regional Health Services an agency that has any authority or interpretive jurisdiction regarding the county's Unified Development Ordinance?
No, they do not.
Is there a requirement under the Unified Development Ordinance or any other county policy that would have required an amendment to the site plan approved by the county on March 22nd, 2013 for relocation or a new location of the septic tank and drain field?
At that time, we would not probably have not required an updated site plan to be submitted. If we have since changed our policy about that, but at this time, we would not have required a brand new site plan or an amended site plan showing the relocation.
So in 2013, at the time that the house at 188 Pointer Road was constructed, the proposed site plan was in conformity with the county's Unified Development Ordinance. Is that correct?
Yes.
And was the applicant for this variance case the owner of the property at 188 Pointers Road at that time?
No, they were not.
Who, to your knowledge, was the owner?
At the time, Quality Homes of Currituck was the owner.
Okay. Do you know when the applicant purchased the property
I believe they
or became owner?
or became the owner sometime last year, I believe.
Okay. So to your knowledge,
Been 20.
this house had been constructed for approximately 7 years prior to the prior to the applicant's ownership.
Yes.
Now, in the course of your department's investigation, were you able to determine when the addition to the driveway was made?
We have a general time frame that we believe that it happened. Let's see. We believe it happened in the fall of this year.
Of 2020, perhaps?
The fall of 2020.
And how were you able to make that determination?
We have some aerial photos from earlier in 2020 that shows that the driveway was not expanded. No, wrong way. This is the aerial for 2016, but upon some investigation and using, this is the county's aerial, but we also have Google Earth and NOAA that we often use. And looking at those maps, we have determined that it happened sometime in the fall of 2020.
Okay, and did you have any discussion with the applicant regarding the construction of the addition to the driveway?
I personally spoke with the applicant at right after the December Board of Adjustment hearing. They were asking their best way forward to remedy the situation, and I expressed to them that a variance is an option, although I did not think that they would meet the standards for a variance.
Okay, did the applicant to you state when they expanded the driveway?
In the fall, can't remember the exact
Fall of 2020?
fall of 2020.
Okay. I refer you to agenda packet page 21. And what is that document?
This is an email from the Elite Concrete to Debbie Lasham, which is our permit officer 3. And you see the email chain coming from Sandy Evans that works for Albemarle Regional Health. And they submitted a site plan to Albemarle Regional Health because for this driveway addition, they got the approval from Albemarle Regional Health on Monday, November 16th, and from Sandy Evans. And you see in that email, she says, either forward this message or print and take with you when you go for your building permit. And then it's forwarded on to Debbie Lasham.
Do you know whether this email was before or after the concrete driveway expansion had been installed?
I believe this was after the concrete had been installed.
And to your knowledge, was this an attempt to come into compliance by receiving a zoning permit?
Yes, that was one of their violations, so this is their attempt at correcting that violation.
Okay, to your knowledge and from review of county records, did any party ever, after November 16, 2020, come to the county permitting office to receive a zoning permit for this driveway expansion?
This is an incomplete application. It was never finalized. So I believe, but no, they did not come and complete this because of the violation, I believe.
Okay, to your knowledge, was there any communication made to the applicant or any agent of the applicant to come to county offices and complete the permit application process?
I believe that Debbie Lasham had sent them at least 2 emails about getting a site plan and Albemarle Regional Health approval to begin the process to have their permit to begin the permit process.
Debbie Lasham being the county permit officer?
Yes, Debbie Lasham, permit officer 3.
And to your knowledge, there was no follow-up to Ms. Lasham's request. Is that correct?
I don't believe so.
Well, as of tonight,
As of tonight,
there has been no issuance of a zoning permit.
correct. There's been no issuance. It is an incomplete application.
Okay, now the other aspect of this variance request is to allow for the location of an accessory structure within the 10-foot side lot line. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. What is that particular variance request about?
The applicant would like to have an accessory structure adjacent to the driveway expansion. So I believe that the accessory structure, the request for that is to allow essentially a shed in the area, probably right behind this RV that would encroach into the 10-foot side setback.
Is there anything in the Unified Development Ordinance that would prohibit location of this accessory dwelling or shed
Yes.
in compliance with setback requirements?
They would not be allowed. The side setback is also for accessory structures on the side setback. So the accessory structure would not be allowed to be in that 10-foot
Right.
setback.
But is there anything in the Unified Development Ordinance prohibiting location of this accessory structure shed on the applicant's property?
Yes.
Can they place a shed on their property?
Can they place a shed? Yes, they can place a shed on their property in any place but the setback.
Nothing in the ordinance that prohibits the placement of a shed on their property.
Right.
They just may not place the shed within the
Then
10-foot setback.
Correct.
Okay.
I'm sorry I misunderstood your
All right.
question.
With regard to the driveway expansion, how many feet into the setback area approximately is the encroachment of the driveway?
I think at the most, according to the applicant's information, it does encroach up to 6 feet into the side setback.
And do you have any information as to why it is that the applicant expanded the driveway and wants to retain the driveway expansion?
From what the applicants told me at the December meeting, they need a parking area for their RV.
Okay, is there anything in the Unified Development Ordinance that prohibits the location of an RV on the applicant's property?
There's nothing that prohibits the RV from being placed on the property. There are limitations to where that RV can be placed.
Okay, and so what is that limitation?
Section 4.3 under accessory use standards for parking of heavy trucks, trailers, and major recreational equipment in residential districts. There is a limit. Major recreational equipment may be stored in the rear yard within a residential district, provided the equipment is at least 10 feet from all lot lines.
So if this variance was granted, would the applicant be able to even locate this recreational vehicle where it's depicted in the picture at packet page 15 and what's shown on the screen?
No, they would not be able to park their RV there.
And has the applicant applied for a variance from section 4.3 of the Unified Development Ordinance?
No.
Now, when someone expands a driveway, in addition to a zoning permit, are there any other permits or certifications that are required by the county or any other agency, to your knowledge?
We would only require a zoning compliance permit to ensure that setbacks are being met and they are still at or below lot coverage. If that's going to impact their septic tank in any way, they would need permission from Albemarle Regional Health. Other than those two requirements, no one else would require anything for driveway expansion.
Well, are there culvert certifications required
Yes.
for expansion
sorry.
of driveway?
Yes, for an expansion of driveway, a culvert certification is.
Okay, and what agency would issue a culvert certification?
North Carolina DOT.
All right, to your knowledge, has North Carolina Department of Transportation issued a culvert certification for the expansion of this driveway?
To my knowledge, no, they have not issued
Okay.
a culvert certification.
From your review of the applicant's property, is there a hardship, such as location, size, or topography of their property that prevents their compliance with Unified Development Ordinance requirements for setback from side property lines?
No, there are no physical constraints on the property as it sits. The only possible constraint would be the septic tank placement.
But in fact, this property was used for at least 7 years in full compliance with the Unified Development Ordinance, was it not?
Yes.
Okay, I don't have any further questions of this witness, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you. Do we have any questions from the board for the county?
I have a couple for Ms. Liz Cicero. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing well, Mr. Craddock. How are you?
I'm doing great. Can you go into a little bit more explanation about what is incomplete with their permit application they provided thus far?
They never submitted a site plan to our permit officer. But I do believe that was because of the violations, and they knew that it would not be approved as a site plan with encroachment into the setback.
I have noticed that there it was on packet page 42 on the right-hand side of the drawing where it shows setbacks. On the drawing, it's showing 20 feet front, 25 feet rear, 15-foot sides, and then it looks like another number was drawn, 10-foot sides. Can you tell me, at the time the house was constructed, was it a 10-foot side setback or a 15-foot side setback? Because on packet page 29, when it's talking about the zoning districts and what's minimum setbacks are, on the right-hand side, minimum size setback is showing 15 feet. Is that because a change occurred in the UDO in 2013?
No, the minimum side setback that you're referring to, it is 15 feet for the main structure, the principal structure. On packet page 29, further down, that list of dimensional standards, there is the minimum accessory use setback is 10 feet, and the minimum driveway parking setback is 10 feet. So the driveway setback was done as a text amendment to the previous UDO that was in effect, and that was best of our research was done in 2005 to require that 10-foot driveway setback.
Mm-hmm. So the handwritten mark on that particular page I mentioned was pertaining to the driveway and 15 for the structure.
Yes.
Another item in section 4.3 of the UDO where you mentioned about a zoning permit is required. You had mentioned that for residential zoning, is ag considered residential zoning, or is that an allowed use in agriculture?
Agriculture, the AG does allow single-family dwellings to be built in ag. So although it is an agricultural zoning, it does allow single-family homes to be to exist there.
I think that's all the questions I have. Thank you very much.
Ms. Bell, Ms. Bontemps, you all have any questions?
The issue with the shed is because it's within 10 feet of the septic, not the 10-foot setback. Is that right?
I believe the proposed shed, this is the site plan that we have, that the applicant has submitted in this application, and you can see, where did my little laser go? There it is. Well, it's not going to show up on the screen, but there's a call out to where the proposed shed is, and the proposed shed will be within that 10-foot setback for the county. I believe, and this would be a question for the applicant, but I believe Albemarle Regional Health did sign off on the shed placement.
Okay.
With respect to the septic.
With respect to the septic, I'm sorry, yes, thank you.
So, with the shed, just for my clarifications, are we talking about a portable type shed, or are we talking about a stick-built permanent structure to go in that location?
Well, it's a 14 by 32 foot shed, so it would require a building permit and some type of permanent foundation.
Okay.
But if it's a portable shed coming in from a state line or whether it's site built, we would treat them very similarly.
Right. Okay. And could you just real quick just go over that timeline again for me with respect to the permit application and the notice of violation, and just so I'm clear in my mind, the sequence of events for those two items.
Let me find my email again.
Because according to the staff analysis, it looks like the notice of violation was issued on October 29th, 2020, and then the applicant submitted an incomplete zoning application for the driveway on November the 9th.
Yes, we received a notice of a complaint Friday, October 23rd, 2020. The notice of violation was issued on October 29th after the code enforcement officer did their investigation, and then they submitted then into November with between environmental health, Albemarle Regional Health Department, and us. They did begin the process of attempting to get compliance for the situation, gain compliance for the situation.
Okay, so the the complaint and the notice of violation did come before the zoning permit application.
Yes, it did. We have found that there are several concrete contractors that do not know that they need a zoning approval for any expansion or pouring of any concrete. So.
Okay. I think that's all the questions I have. Anyone have any further questions?
I had one other follow-up question, Ms. LaCicero. When it comes to the 14 by 32 shed, is a form of making it permanent on a foundation the same as with a slab, or could it be with anchors that are screwed into the ground? Is that an acceptable method?
Yes. Yes. Because of our wind zones and our different issues, there is a requirement for the safety
Has
issues
to
to
be,
be addressed.
doesn't
Yeah.
it?
Yes.
And am I correct in saying that any structure, an accessory structure, if it has a wall longer than 12 feet, has to have
Yes.
a permit, rather?
Yes.
That's all I have.
All right. No further questions. Did we want to allow the applicant to ask any questions?
I think he was one of the individuals who signed up, and I don't know if he has any questions. You'll certainly have an opportunity to speak. But did you have any questions for Ms. Wilson?
I'll just say all night, too. Thank you, man.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Anything further?
Not for this one.
Okay.
Michael, I ask a question?
No, so you're not the applicant, and you're not, are you attorney? Okay, so no, you can't ask for questions, but the applicant can ask for questions. So, Mr. McCreary, if you don't have anything else, I think she's,
Yeah, I think on the left.
You might want to verify.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, hold on. I'm gonna give them a second to figure out if the applicant wants to ask a question.
Yeah, I'd like to ask a question.
will you come on
Yep.
up here so we can get you on the recording? Thank you.
Do I have to?
And just, you've already been
Yep.
sworn, just for our clarification record, you're Harry
Stretz.
Stretz.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
The question is brought to my attention. You stated that we needed approval from DOT, and my contractors for the culvert. My contractors already contacted DOT about the culvert extension, and they don't need nothing. for
Okay.
that. So it doesn't need approval from the DOT for the culvert extension.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Thank you, Ms. Lucicero.
County will call Stephanie Newburn. I know Stephanie Newburn. Savannah Newburn. All in the same family. And Mr. Chairman, members of the board, we're calling Savannah Newburn just to clarify some of Ms. Lucicero's testimony,
Okay.
or one part.
Yep. Welcome.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. I just wanted to clarify that today, after contacting Debbie LaChalle, the permit officer who was processing their permit, that they did attempt to complete their application. They did reply to our emails quickly, and that permit was never updated in our system because it was not permissible. Just wanted to clarify that they did make the attempt to receive that permit, and they did follow up with her.
So are you saying that the application was not, what was being requested in the application was not permissible, but they did attempt to complete the application? Okay.
I don't have anything further from this witness unless the applicant has any question.
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Thank you.
That'd be the county's showing, except, Mr. Chairman, we would move for admission as the county's exhibits. I guess for ease of identification, I'll say agenda packet pages 12 through 37.
Okay. Has the applicant's been provided with that packet, correct? Okay.
Smart that it's county exhibit 1.
That'd be fine.
Okay.
That'd be the county showing, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. All right, at this time, I'd like to ask the applicant to please step forward to the podium to make his case.
Yes, sir. How are you? Again, stating my name, Harry Stretz. I'm going to give you the timeline of how all this came about. When my fiance at the time and I bought the house at 188 Pointers Road, we started to change all our license and insurance to North Carolina. And at that time, the insurance company told me that I could not store my camper in the state of Virginia where I was paying to store it because it's so large, that I had to move it within 30 days to Moyock. And they asked me if I was going to store it in my property. And I didn't think it was an issue parking it, beside my house. I make sure it's behind the front of the house so you can't see, because that's the way it is in the state of Virginia. So we had 30 days or they were going to drop my insurance. So at the time, right after the driveway, I talked to my contractor several times, and I talked to several other contractors, like Mr. LaRusso said, that they said that I didn't need a permit to extend a driveway, and I asked several times just to make sure. Ignorance is not an excuse, but it's my fault for not calling the county and finding out myself. I work for the government, so I work a lot of hours. At that time, when we got the violation, my fiance and I at the time, we were away getting married. So we didn't get it until we got back in the middle of the week after the notice had already been mailed to us. So as soon as receiving the notice of the violation, I immediately got on the phone and contacted my contractor, and we started the process to rectify this situation. In regards to her saying there's no issue, we could put another driveway, as she stated in her package, I want to put into exhibit the picture of the other side of my house. There's an electrical pole exactly 17 feet off the property line in front of my house. And you can see it's flooded. And seeing that I am a retired military combat civil engineer, the reason I feel that the contractor moved the septic field after the fact is because that side of the house floods extremely bad no matter what type of rain we get. And he didn't want to pay for the landfill to bring it up to where it needed to be, so he just moved it. So upon extending the driveway in regards to the shed, there's no access to my backyard. I can't drive around the other side. It's a swamp. I get stuck, I'll tear up my yard. Not to mention, it's an extremely long way around. So we wanted to put the driveway, we expanded it without...
And I'm not trying to cut you off.
No,
I'm
go
trying
ahead.
to get this board. I'm going to mark this as applicant 1. I'm going to pass it around to
Yes,
you.
yes, ma'am. I was going to make copies, but I'm sorry I didn't. So with the septic field being moved and which 7 feet off the corner of my house, and it's only 14 feet off the property line, there's no access to my backyard to drive around to get in the backyard. That's why I would like the variance to put the shed right off the end of the driveway so I don't have to drive all the way around my house if I want to load wood or any of that nature. I just put the 32 feet. I wasn't going to go that far. I found out that, like Mr. Currituck suggested, that 12 foot would be big enough. You don't need the permit, so I'm going to scale it down. But I made it that big because I want to put rock for drainage, so I don't have no issues of it flooding underneath and causing mosquito problems or anything like that. We also, when we put the driveway in, we kept the slope of the property so there wouldn't be any back, water problems or drainage. Because, like I stated before, I'm a retired civil engineer, and we build runways, so I know how to keep runoff. So didn't want to interfere with that. So we expanded the driveway. Again, ignorance is not an excuse. I should have found out about it before, but that's why I relied on all the contractors that I talked to in Moyock and said they never needed one. Some guy said, I've been here 20 years and I've never had one. So my fault, I assumed that was the way to be.
Okay.
So there is no anything within a 60-mile radius of my home to house my camper. It's just too big. It won't be. And I can't store it in Virginia because the insurance won't allow it. So I had no other choice but to bring it. I can't put it in the backyard. There's nobody to get it in the backyard. It weighs 22,000 pounds. Drive that around the house, it's going to get stuck and it's going to sink. There's no other place to put it unless I sell it. So I'm asking for the variance. I'm only 5.4 feet in the setback is where the driveway sits. My neighbor doesn't have a problem with it. He said it looks very great. He likes it. If there's an issue with moving the camper, we'll move the camper over, but at least it's parked on concrete. It's not going to sink into the mud. I'm asking for the variance so that we can allow to use our house as we intended to. No issues. I didn't do this to cause problems. Like I said, it was my fault for not fully checking into it, but my contractor's doing everything they can to help us rectify the situation, and I appreciate him and his wife for handling it because I go to work at 4:30 in the morning and I don't get home at 6 o'clock at night. So, is there any other questions for me? I'd be like to answer.
Sure. If you want to stay there, that's fine. If you want to grab a seat there.
I'm
if
fine.
you want, okay.
Yeah.
I don't know how many questions
No,
you're going to
good.
get, so I
I'm
didn't want you just standing there. Any questions for the applicant?
Hey, how you doing tonight?
How you doing, Mr. Craddock?
I was going to ask you about the placement of the camper on your driveway. Did I understand you saying that it has to be behind the front of the house, or was that only in Virginia?
It was in Virginia. It couldn't exceed past the front part of your house.
Okay.
So that's why we moved the driveway straight back. If if the septic field wasn't there, I planned on going straight back and putting a garage back here, but there's no way to do that. So I pushed the driveway back far enough so that the front of the camper isn't protruding past the front of the house. That was one of the, one of the codes in Virginia. I think it looks kind of crappy anyway, so that's why I try to keep it as far back as I can.
I was going to ask you a question about flooding. I appreciate you bringing the picture showing us what can happen there occasionally at the house. Over on that right-hand side of the house where that picture was being taken, have you ever had water to go inside of your house at all?
No, but when we had that big nor'easter, it was like probably 6 feet from my front step, and it wrapped all the way around the house and went all the way to the farmer's field behind us. And it took probably about 6 days to recede.
And your septic tank area is elevated, right? It's a
Yes,
hump in
and
your
it's
yard.
on the other side where there isn't that much flooding. The front yard, the ditch floods a little bit, but that side, it doesn't raise up because my neighbor's property and my property is higher on that side than on, if you're looking at the house on the right side we're talking about. I mean, right now, you go there right now, you'll see that much water just from today's rain. It literally goes up all the way past the electric box, and that distributes to all 5 of the houses right there. And we're the only house out of those 5 that has the septic field on that, because we're the only ones that flood on that side of the house.
If I'm understanding you correctly, you said that the utility pole is 17 feet from
Yes,
your property line
Yes, it is.
inwards.
Yeah, it's 17 off, and I don't know how far off the ditch, but it's probably, I would have to guess about 8 to 10 feet off the road, from the ditch. But I went out and measured it last night to see how far it came over, and it's exactly 17 feet to the edge of that pole from the property line.
And it looks like on the drawing that is been given to us that shows maybe the original survey that shows the house and how far you're off on each property line. It looks like on the right-hand side of the house, you're 37 feet off the property line to the edge of the house. Is that right?
Yes, sir. Yeah, that was the one we got at closing, was where the septic field was supposed to be, was on the right side, and then actually we found out it's on the left side.
Okay.
And then Ms. Roche, when she sent me the package, that was the first time I've seen the addition to the site plan change that I'd never seen at closing. The lawyers never knew that or anything. And then when this all started, they were contacting my contractor. They wanted us to give full dimensions. That's why you see so many drawings. I literally went out there with scales and rulers, and I measured everything to the T and submitted it to them to tell them exactly where the drive was, exactly where the septic field was, how far off the line, how far off the house it was. So that, to me, that felt that they didn't have any idea that it was moved. And then I seen these drawings yesterday or 2 days ago when I got the email saying, oh yeah, it was moved back in such and such. Well, took an awful long time for that to go through. About 8 years now, 9 years now?
But at that time, you were not the owner, is that right?
Correct. We bought in June 15th of last year.
So you probably would not have known about that anyway because it had occurred in the past so far
Correct.
back, right?
That is correct, sir.
All right, that's all the questions I had. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any additional questions? So I have a question about, with your variance request, you actually asking for 2 variances. Can you tell me a little bit more about the shed, the structure, and the purpose of it, and whether it could possibly be placed anywhere else on your property and still serve a use for you?
Yeah, I have 4-wheelers. I'd also do woodworking and stuff. So if I was to place it way in the back, I'd have to walk lumber or whatever really far. I can't run electricity. I don't want to run electricity all the way in the back. That would be very costly. I can just run the extension cords from my garage, get everything out of my garage into the shed that's right close that I can use my motorcycle and everything, instead of having to walk in all the way in the backyard to get my Harley and drive it to work and drive it through all the way across the backyard to get to my driveway to get on the road. The shed right off, that means that way I can, if I'm bringing lumber or anything I need to work on, I can just back straight up to the shed and offload it into the shed instead of driving, which I can't unless it's dry, all the way around the backyard because I don't want to drive over my septic field and possibly collapse it in. It's a very expensive repair.
So I don't know if you can see the graphic up there on the screen that the county put up there, and I don't know how accurate those dimensions are. I'm assuming.
I'm sure when they asked
Okay.
me for those dimensions, I went out there and
Okay.
literally marked. That's why I have so many dimensions on there. I wanted to give them the exact radius and how far it went and everything. I drew that.
Right. Okay. So in looking at the portion of the driveway that's encroaching into the to the setback,
Yes, sir.
and it looks like it's an equivalent encroachment of the proposed shed into the setback as well. And I think you mentioned earlier it's 5.4 feet.
Yes, sir.
You said. So I'm assuming if you move the RV 5 feet closer to the house, would that create a hardship for you in terms of? I mean, it probably would be tight.
No, I understand where you're
yeah.
going. Yes and no, because then I wouldn't be able to park on either side of it. It would be taking up the whole driveway by itself. So right now I have my truck that tows it and my little car parked there. If I move it over, then I can't park either one of them there. I'd have to put it in front, and that pulls the vehicles down into the driveway where I'd have to jockey every time we wanted to move something around. This way, like I said, I get up at 4. I leave work at 4:30 in the morning. That means I'd have to move my wife's car, move my truck, take my car, whatever. It's where it is, so it's out of the way of everybody, the AC unit, the gas. I don't really want it to put it through class. We have a gas hot water heater, that kind of stuff. So in the shed, I just put it there because that's where the driveway, it's uniformity, it looks good, the fence it's symmetrical. That's why I put it there. Plus, it's not on the hill of the septic field. You know, it's on the slope, not on the top of it.
Yeah, from that drawing, I can't really tell from here, but it looks like that part of it is part of it on the drain field?
The last line that goes through the middle of the shed, that's the bottom of the slope. The first line is where you can see the first pipe that goes through. That's the actual, the stone bed for that first pipe is over there. And when we submitted this, like I said, to the health department, they approved it because it was far enough off of that it wouldn't be a problem for the septic field.
Right. Okay.
So you said it's 5 feet or so from within into the setback.
5.4.
5.4.
Exactly.
And that was with a 14-foot shed. You said you're doing a 12-foot shed now?
When I found that, I was going to make a big shed so I could put everything in there, but when I found out it could only be 12 foot, I'm going to scale it down and make it smaller.
So instead of 5, it's now 3.5 into it.
Yes, but it would still encroach into the setback
Okay.
Right, I don't think.
because of where my septic field is.
He's
Okay.
gonna start the shed at the corner of the driveway, which is, the proposal, as I understand it, is that the shed's gonna line up with the driveway, which is 5.4 feet. Regardless of how large if he does 12 feet or 23 feet or whatever, the shed is gonna be 5 feet in the setback. Is that?
Correct, because of
That's
the
what you're asking for.
yes, because of the slope of the septic field. If I move it over, then the shed's going to be like 4 foot in the air because I have the slope of the septic field. Now I can't get over that first line, which is the drain field itself. I do not want to build on top of that or put anything on top of
Well,
that.
that's what I'm saying. If you were to leave where you have the side by the septic field now, if those corners stay there and you shrink it by 2 feet, then you're not 5 feet to you're only
width-
4
the-
feet. But
the
you're
only thing
gonna
that was gonna
you're gonna
change
line
was-
it up with this side, not this side.
The only thing that was changing was the length because it's 32 feet. I was going to make it smaller.
Oh, you're still
So
gonna
still
leave
leave it as the
14
width.
feet wide.
Yeah, 12 foot. It'll be 12 foot wide off the corner of the driveway.
Still lined up with the driveway.
It's still going to line up with the driveway because of the septic field being where it is.
Okay.
So when looking facing the house directly, and you said that right side of your property, you got the was it a telephone line or power line?
It's the power lines, yes. It
Yeah.
comes down to a distribution box, and that box is goes to all 5 of the houses.
Okay, so you got the power pole there, and you said that that right side of your property is lower. Do you have you pulled any topos, elevations to kind of show the difference in elevation from one side of your property to the
No,
other?
I haven't yet, sir.
Okay. And how often? So how long have you been there again? You've been there
Since June of last year.
so June of last year. So that's about 7 months or so.
Yes, sir.
In that time, how many times have you observed that side of your property flooding?
Every time it rains for more than 4 to 5 hours.
Okay.
We actually put the dirt from the driveway over there against the house because the water was coming all the way up to the foundation. So I put the dirt there to keep the water from coming up out of the ditch all the way to the house.
I had a follow-up question.
Sure.
Is your home a crawl style home or a slab style
It's a
home?
crawl style, sir.
The only slab is your garage, is
Yes,
that
sir.
right? Okay.
With the camper, and you've made a complete pad of concrete. Could you, and I'm just thinking, could you make 2 strips of concrete just for the wheels, and would they then encroach, or would there be an issue with them encroaching? And maybe I shouldn't be asking you, I should be asking Lori. Ms. LaCicero. He's put a whole pad of concrete.
Yes.
If it wasn't a full pad of concrete, if it was just 2 strips of concrete for the wheels on the camper, would that be an issue with encroachment?
Yes, it's still a vehicular access area, so that would still be considered part of the driveway, and it would need to be that 10-foot setback.
Okay. I was just trying to think outside of the box.
All right. Any additional questions, Ms. Bell? All right. Guess we'd like to ask if the staff would like to ask any questions of the applicant.
No question.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
I believe that you had someone else who signed up. Did you intend to call any other witness?
That was my contractor. If he wanted to, you said he couldn't ask questions, but he was the one that was handling all the permits and stuff. So if he needed to get up here and answer some of y'all's questions about the permits in the zone and all that stuff,
Okay.
he signed up just in case you needed to talk to him.
Thank you.
Oh, yes, ma'am.
All right. This time I'd like to open the public hearing and ask for any comments from the public. And the only 2 folks I have signed up on the speaker sheet are the applicant and his contractor. So unless your contractor wants to come up and say anything in the public hearing portion, he's welcome to do so.
I would like to answer any question you guys have, if you have any. I don't mind.
Why don't you come on up and we'll see if the board has any questions for you.
So my name's Dan McGee. I'm the owner of Elite Concrete, and Harry hired me back in October to pour a driveway expansion for him, and I was under the impression I pulled permits for structures, metal buildings, entrances to driveways, and I was under the assumption that the only reason there was a need for a zoning permit was if you were pushing that non-permeable surface on the lot. I had no idea of any setback rules, and that was ignorance on my part. And I was one of the contractors that did tell Harry, hey, I don't think there's any reason for a zoning permit because of the size of your lot and the size of the concrete we're putting down is not even close to being a problem as far as being an impermeable surface and shedding too much water and flooding the neighbors. So we went ahead with it. And as far as the DOT, the compliance, the culvert compliance, I've called the DOT every single time I mess with a culvert. I give them a call. The answer is the same. Hold up, let me pull it up on Google Maps. Okay, yeah, you're good. That's it. There's never any sort of documentation. There's not even an email exchange. There's nothing ever. With zoning, in the past, I've worked with Debbie on different projects where we had put aprons in and moved things around. And under that situation, I really thought I was, hey, I need to go ahead and let the county know we're doing this. As far as this right here, I looked at the land. It's an agricultural setup. I mean, it's all just farmland, really. I had no idea it would be this big a deal. But I just want to make sure we see it through. And I really, after being on the lot, he cannot access his backyard with any vehicle at all unless he gets that variance to just get by that septic field. The septic field is only 14 feet away, 15 feet away. So you take that 10 feet away, that's 4 feet he's got of usable space in between. It's just not practical. Putting a driveway around the front of the house and wrapping all the way around is a huge undertaking. And at that point, I think you would start messing with impermeable surface, shedding even more water away, cause even more issues. Like you saw in the picture, he's already flooded on that side. I mean, I really think in this case, I hope you guys would grant the variance for him. But any questions?
Do we have any questions?
I have a couple for you. How you doing, Mr. McGee?
I'm doing good. How you doing, Mr. Craig?
I'm doing well. Can you give me an estimate of what the cost is per yard to pour concrete nowadays for a driveway?
Yeah,
including the material.
Okay, so we're right at now with material, labor, excavation, everything that's involved. You're looking at right around $400 a yard. A yard of concrete will do a 4-inch thick area, 8 by 10, just to put it in perspective.
I have a different question for you now. Mm-hmm. When it comes to demolition,
yes, sir.
What is the cost typically of demolishing concrete that's already been poured? Let's say, for instance, cutting a groove and breaking up the part that needs to be removed. What is that? Is that a by the hour thing, or how do you work that normally?
A lot of times we'll just throw like $1 a square foot for a 4-inch thick pad. So 1 square foot of concrete removed and hauled off is about $1. Now this driveway was poured, we actually poured it thicker. We poured it 5 inches, and we incorporated fiber in the mix because of the weight of the camper that he had going on it. So this would be a little bit more hefty of a job. But and we also used a little bit sturdier concrete than most people do. Is 3,500 psi instead of just 3,000 or 2,500 like most builders use. So
the fiberglass you're talking about is an additive. It's
that's
not
correct.
Something you lay in there, correct?
It's in the mix, yes, sir. It's throughout the slab.
So if you had to guess how much it would cost to remove it, would you say $2?
It would probably be right around $2, yes, sir, just because of what went into it.
And I believe I heard you say just a moment ago is that you've done work in the county before many times, and you've worked with Debbie Lasham in the planning department, and you did not realize that you had to have a zoning permit to expand a driveway. Is that right?
This might sound bad. I hope I don't offend anybody, but usually when there's no money changing hands, it's not a big deal to anybody. And I know in other counties, they want that, hey, give us the money on your way. And I've never paid a dime for a zoning permit and never had any issues pulling one, and really thought that it was only needed for the coverage of the land. If you're exceeding a certain amount of acreage, which 1/3 is what I believe I remember. But I looked at his situation and said, no, there's no reason to have a permit here. So.
And just to clarify, you are not a general contractor. You're a concrete contractor.
Concrete contractor. That's it. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Any additional questions? I have one or two. So, is your business? What county is your business based out of?
So we're right out of Moya. We're right
Okay.
here. Yes, sir.
All right. And how long have you been in business in Currituck County?
3.5 years. 3.5 years. I've been doing concrete since I was about 12.
Right.
My whole life.
Right. Okay.
So,
All right. Anything else? All right. Thank you.
Good. All right. Thank you.
All right. There being no additional speakers on the list, at this time I'm going to close the public hearing. And at this time I'd like to ask for any further discussion from the board on this issue.
And Mr. McCree, did you intend to make any argument tonight before the board moved on to deliberation?
Good evening. First of all, we submit that the evidence is not sufficient on behalf of the applicant to meet the required findings that this board has to make. First of all, we submit that, as testified to by Ms. Cicero, this property was being reasonably used for residential use for at least 7 years before the current owners acquired it. And so what now has occurred is not land related or use related or inability to use the property, but it is personal choices or preferences as opposed to impacts on the use of this property by virtue of language of the Unified Development Ordinance. There are many people in this county, or a number of people in this county, who I'm sure would like to have their recreational vehicles stored in their homes or in their driveways, but you can drive up and down this county and see many storage yards that have recreational vehicles stored there. And so that is one option available to this applicant. The shed is a preference. It's not a necessity. It's not a necessity that it even be located on this particular location where he's asking for, in this application, not one, but now 2 variances. There's nothing that prohibits this shed from being located anywhere else on the property. And while, yes, it may be inconvenient for his personal desires, it does not inhibit his ability to locate the shed of the size he proposes, or even larger, to continue to get adequate and more than adequate use of his property. And so again, this comes down to personal preferences, not an impact on use of this piece of property due to requirements of the Unified Development Ordinances, and accordingly, we would respectfully submit that the statutes and the Unified Development Ordinances precludes this board from granting this variance, and we ask that you would deny it. Also noting that there would be the necessity, if you were to approve it in any event, for this applicant to file for yet a 3rd variance in order to even be able to locate this recreational vehicle within the side setback area, should this board even allow the driveway, because again, that is not part of this application tonight.
Great, thank you. Before we
And the applicant, we need to give the applicant an opportunity to have any closing remarks, and I apologize to cut you off. We did
Yep.
County. Did you have any closing remarks, sir?
Yes, ma'am, I would like to. In rebuttal to his statement, yes, there's plenty of lots around here with RVs, but if you call them, there's none of them that will house 47-foot long RVs. Granted, it is my preference, but yes, you don't know my situation. I was going through a divorce. I needed a place to live. I bought a camper to live in while I was going through my divorce. So now that I have it, what do? Just throw it away? It was the place I had to live while I was going through my divorce. So that's why I have an RV, not just because of a recreation vehicle. It was my home. And nobody in this area will house 47 foot. That's a tractor trailer. You see tractor trailers just parking anywhere? No, I don't. So I can't park a 47 foot just anywhere. They don't fit. Even campgrounds, several campgrounds won't house 47 foot RVs because they don't have the ability to take that big of a space. Preference? Yeah, I work hard for my preferences. My preference is to drive a Harley. Might not be his, but it's mine. That's why I work hard for what I like, not what he likes. I like chocolate, you like vanilla. Life is preferences, it's choices we make as human beings to choose what we like, not what you like. So yes, I like to have my RV at my house because the insurance states I have to have it out. They're going to cancel me. I like to work on it when I'm getting ready to go camping. Not load everything in my truck and drive to a storage unit to load everything in my camper. Oh, I forgot something. Now I have to drive all the way home. I have to do maintenance on it. I like to work on my vehicles at home. I don't have the money to go pay somebody else to work on my stuff. So yes, that is my preference. I work hard for my preference. I served 21 years in the military for my freedom and my preferences. So that's why I choose my preferences. The shed, yes, I'm 55 years old. I don't want to carry 2x4s all the way across my yard every time I have to carry something back there. I don't have to walk back there to get a screwdriver because my tools are in my shed. Because my garage is for my wife's vehicle. That's where I would like to store it so it doesn't get ruined in the weather. A garage is for a garage to park a car in, not to store all your stuff in. Sheds are to store your stuff in. So that's why I would like the shed closer to my house so I don't have to go work all the way in the backyard and run electricity back there. Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you. Before we begin any deliberations, I did want to remind everyone on the board and everyone in attendance tonight that this is a hearing for a variance, which is a quasi-judicial evidentiary hearing. And that means that variances require a 4/5 majority, board majority, in order for approval to be granted. And granted, we have 4 members present here tonight, but we do have a 5th member who is a permanent member of the board. So the denominator of the fraction will be 5. So which means because he's not here and not present to vote, we're looking at the requirement for a unanimous 4-person vote here tonight to grant this variance. So I did want to make that clear so that everyone in attendance understands that.
That's by statute, not by preference.
That's
just
right.
so everybody
That's
knows.
that's
by
North Carolina
statute.
state law that we have to follow that for a variance. So I just wanted to make everyone clear that that's the process here tonight. All right. So with that, any further discussion by the board?
I just have something I'd like to say. Probably not gonna make any difference in it. I wonder, this is personal, why I'm on this board. I'm not a contractor, I'm not a servant, not a servant, appraiser. I don't know what you're,
I work at a nursing home.
oh, that's good. Okay. I'm a nurse. But the thing of it is, as I see it, and I think that's why I'm on this board, is because I don't know all the specialities of everything, but I go by my heart. I think that's why I'm here. And then sometimes I go by my mouth, as you all know. But in his defense and in my defense, there are so many rules and regulations this county has that somebody that is coming here from Virginia doesn't have a clue of all this stuff. And yeah, maybe he should have known, I need to go to see somebody in the county or whatever. But with his saying the horrible hours he works, prevented that maybe. But I'm just saying, and I know this doesn't affect the vote one way or the other, but it would be nice sometimes in this county if we could cut people a little bit of slack. And I know that's against the rules, it's probably written somewhere, no slack allowed. But I just wanted to get that off my chest, and it kind of bothers me. There's so many rules and regulations that it is hard to figure which one applies to you. And if you ask people that you think you should know, you believe what they say. So that's just a statement. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Ms. Bell. And I would add to that. I certainly understand your thoughts there and your feeling there. We certainly want to be reasonable as best as we can. And in a case like this, it's a little harder when you're dealing with a variance because as the authority of this board, you know, we really are kind of hamstrung with a variance because, you know, the applicant, you know, has to, what we are evaluating in this case is based on the evidence that's presented to us here tonight. We have to make a determination whether all 5 of the criteria for granting a variance are met. And sometimes you can look at it and say, yeah, a lot of the criteria are met, but we have to look at it as a whole. It has to be all 5 criteria, and that's kind of what we're tasked with, you know, with this board, in granting variances or not granting variances, and that's, you know, that's what I'll be looking at tonight. I'm looking at every one of these criterion and applying what I've heard here tonight to each one of these criterion and taken as a whole. You know, I'll make my decision off of that, but you know, I certainly understand your thoughts, and you know, if we had certainly more flexibility, it probably would you know, grant a lot more variances, you know, just because you feel for people, obviously. Yeah.
I appreciate that, and I've served on this board before some years ago, and things are so different now because the rate of growth is just amazing, and I realize that if there are not rules and regulations, you know, this place could become a whatever. Mm-hmm. Well, I understand that, but like I said, I'm speaking from my heart.
And I just want to, so the board in a quasi-judicial hearing, you're sitting as a judge, and so judges have to sit impartial, and you have to follow the law. I'm here to make sure you follow the law. And if anyone's going to be the traffic cop, it's going to be me, who says you have to put your personal feelings aside. And I know you were just making a statement, but I just want to reiterate for the record, you have to put your personal feelings aside and follow the law. And the law for a variance is very clear about meeting that the application has to meet each and every ground in order for that variance to be granted. Mm-hmm. So when you are evaluating this, you have to evaluate to that. As to your comment about why you don't know why you're on this board, I think you're on this board because you grew up here and you know Currituck County, and it's an important perspective to bring to the board. So I think that you do add to the board and bring an important perspective, but I would implore everyone to follow the law because that's why I'm here.
Understand.
So,
Lauren, who makes up the law for this?
So the standards for variances and what are those grounds and what has to be met and the 4/5, that's all done by general statute. That's done by the legislature, and then ultimately that's adopted through the local ordinance. So it's in the UDO, but it is set by the state, and it's set by the general statute. So this is not, you know, in terms of what setbacks may be or what lot coverage, all that stuff is local. Right. But in terms of the standards that this board has to consider in determining whether to grant a variance or not, or hear an appeal, or the different things that the functions that this board has, it's all set by general statute.
Okay. And I guess in Raleigh, and then it just, okay, so those 5 bullets. So every county should be the same with those 5 bullets?
Yes.
Across the state.
Statewide. All 100 counties.
Okay.
And you know, as we're talking about this, and just for the record, you know, I'll read off the standards. You know, we have to weigh the evidence and determine, you know, whether the applicant has proven that these standards have been met. The first standard is the alleged hardship is suffered by the applicant as a result of the application of this ordinance. So in this case, we're talking about the UDO in the setbacks. The second standard is the hardship relates to the applicant's land, such as location, size, or topography, rather than personal circumstances. The third standard is the hardship is unique or nearly so, rather than one shared by many surrounding properties. The fourth standard, the hardship is not the result of the applicant's own actions. And the fifth standard is the variance will not authorize the initiation of a non-conforming use of land. Oh, there's actually one more. The requested variance is consistent with the spirit, purpose, and intent of this ordinance, such that public safety is secured and substantial justice is achieved. And we have to, the applicant has to demonstrate that all of those hardships are met, all those requirements are met. And like I said, a lot of times we find that a lot of times they meet a lot of them. But that's what we're going to discuss here. That's what we're discussing here, whether we as a board feel like all of these criteria have been met by the applicant's case. All right. Mr. Crack, you got any thoughts?
Oh, yeah.
Let's see.
My take on the evidence that has been presented is, and it's sad, is that we've had the applicant admit that they were in error. We've also had the concrete contractor admit that they did not know they made an error. And it appears that this can be rectified by more than one way to correct this. They can remove the part within the 10-foot setback to get rid of it and come into compliance. Or if they wanted to be able to get to the backyard conveniently, they could put in a secondary driveway on the other side, even though it does flood occasionally, according to the applicant. That is possible. There is enough room. The applicant stated that the utility pole was 17 feet from the property line, and the space between the property line and the home is 37 feet. So there's an additional 20 feet there where a driveway could be placed within that 20 feet. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe a driveway maximum width can be 24 feet here in the county. Isn't that right, Ms. LaCicero?
The maximum width of the driveway at the street, at the property line, is 24 feet. However, once it's more than 10 feet back, it can flare out and become bigger as long as it adheres to the 10-foot setback.
Thank you. And regardless of if the outcome is for denial, then it is going to cost the applicant money to have it removed. The concrete contractor said it was $2 a square foot. There's almost 900 square feet of area that would have to be removed. So it's going to be a cost to the applicant.
For the entire area? The entire area, we're just talking the
I think it said 893 feet was in there, right?
5.4
times 60 something. Well, maybe perhaps 400 feet then if we're counting only the area within it. So either way, it's going to cost the applicant money to have it removed. And I believe there are areas within the county where you can park a large RV. I know of a couple places that it's not convenient to Moyock, but it is possible farther down in the county.
All right. Anything further?
This is tough.
They're all tough. That's why we're here.
I know.
And just to clarify, I do have a heart. And I feel empathy for people having to come here and do all those things, and it's sad that it has to come to that point, but like Ms. Bell said, we have rules to make sure things stay like it's supposed to be, and when you don't follow the rules, sometimes there's consequences, and sometimes they're tough ones.
Yeah, and I would add to that. I think certainly quite a number of these variance review standards. I think the applicant makes a strong case for quite a few of them. Coming in here tonight, we're just looking at the package of information that I received. You don't get the full picture, and I appreciate the applicant bringing the picture of the flooding on that one side of his yard and all that. That's to me, and I understand. I've lived in Currituck County for 25 years, and we do have a flooding problem in this county, and I've seen many places just like that where half the yard is underwater. When we get a big storm. So, for example, so there's one standard that coming into tonight I didn't think you'd meet, but I think maybe you've met that. Showing some of those difficulties associated with that. But the one standard, and it's absolutely the hardest standard to meet, is the one that says the hardship is not the result of the applicant's own actions. That's the hardest one to meet. That's the highest standard. And as I said earlier, we have to meet all of them. And, in this case, I think you've met quite a few of them. But that one is hard because it's like Mr. Craddock said, it's there are rules and there's standards, and and I understand that coming in from another state and not really knowing what the rules are, it's easy to miss something if you're not careful. But as Mr. Craddock said, those standards are in place for a reason, and particularly with a county like this that's growing as fast as this one has. I mean, when I first built my house 25 years ago, there was not a thing in this county. It was not. You would not recognize it then versus now, and of course Ms. Bell's been here even longer than that. And if we allow these violations of the standards that are put in place, we don't know what this county will look like in 10 or 20 years if that were allowed to continue. So we do have those standards for a reason. Anything else? Any further discussion?
The right side of the house that floods, being that the builder or Albemarle Regional Health had the septic moved, tells me that area, the reason for the flooding is this thick clay mass that we have of 14, 15 feet in this area. It's not allowing any of the water to drain. And there's no way, unless they put 10 feet of sand on that side, that would allow for a driveway to go in the back that way. It's going to continue. He'll have problems ongoing. And I know a couple of properties that have done things like that, and it's made it actually worse, flooding worse, by putting concrete in there and using it as a driveway. Yeah. I'm just going to throw that out there because I don't know the property. I haven't been there, but I know the county. I know the sloping. I have issues with the property that I live in. 14 acres and 8 acres of wetlands. So I'm just going to put it out there. There's, and especially a camper way in that kind of, or a truck, anything. It's not going to be able to get over there. There's just way too much clay in the soil for the drainage.
Right.
Especially if they move that septic field. That's telling me there's way too much clay over that way.
Mm-hmm. I would agree with that. All right. Any further discussion? All right. At this point, no, go ahead.
I don't know if I can ask it, but if the concrete that's encroaching was removed, could it be replaced with just a rock bed, like for landscaping and stuff like that?
I think that Ms. LaCicero said any sort of vehicular access, so I don't know if, I assume rock is included in that?
Yes, rock's included in that, and so are, unfortunately, pervious pervious pavers are also included in that as a driveway vehicular access
Do that?
area.
No, they could not.
They could not.
Any sort of vehicular access, and she was saying a pervious, I think I said it right, surface, so pavers or rock
Gravel.
or gravel, not that, I think a camper that size could make it through gravel.
Yeah,
but,
Okay.
gravel.
Okay.
I don't think you can put anything there.
Okay.
Okay. At this point, I'd like to ask for a motion from the board.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to deny the request for variance. The applicant did not meet all 5 of the standards. It appears that they met the standard about the hardship being unique, but unfortunately the hardship was at the result of the applicant's or their agent's own actions, by first not having the zoning permit and second by putting in the concrete. And as far as the shed goes, to deny the request for the shed location there over the septic area within the 10-foot setback, because there are other places to locate the shed on the property that will be in compliance, even though it will be inconvenient for the applicant.
Okay. Do I have a second on that motion?
We have no choice but to second it.
All right. So we have a second.
And that kills me.
Yep. All right, so we have a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Are there any announcements tonight? Ms. Womble, any announcements? No. Right. Okay, this time, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
I'll second the motion.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, say nay. All right, meeting adjourned. Thank you.